So today we'll be going over everything Roman Reigns related. He has multiple storylines revolving around him, so there's a lot to talk about there. We'll also take a look at another Sasha Banks update. For today's question of the day, did you enjoy the tension that's starting to build up between the Bloodline and Paul Heyman? Let's start things off with this storyline because this is one of the very few stories left in WWE that is actually full with great storytelling. So Roman and Heyman came together late summer 2020 and formed an alliance. Paul Heyman said right from the jump that he's not Roman's advocate the same way he was for Brock Lesnar. He's just there to share some wisdom and advice whenever he's called upon by Roman Reigns. Heyman was also very grateful for the opportunity to work with Roman and said on several occasions that Roman saved him. Paul Heyman had nothing to do with Brock Lesnar being gone from WWE at the time. So maybe the character was in a dark and lonely place, but was saved by Roman. Roman gave him purpose again, and he was grateful for that opportunity and has been loyal to Roman ever since. And with Brock Lesnar not being around in WWE, everything was fine. Paul Heyman's loyalty to Roman Reigns never really had to be tested at all. But the script completely flipped at SummerSlam with the return of Brock Lesnar. Seeing Brock and Roman face off was great. But it's also pretty important to keep an eye on Heyman's reaction during the face-off as well. Heyman seems absolutely terrified by Brock and Roman's standoff. He's seeing his past and his present stand there with each other in the ring, and he doesn't seem to have the slightest clue how to react. And understandably so. Paul Heyman has been the side of Roman's family for decades, but also has a history with Brock Lesnar. So he's just torn right down the middle. With the return of Brock Lesnar, Paul Heyman has also seemed to be getting a bigger role in the storyline and slowly becoming a focal point. Before the return, Paul Heyman said a few lines every here and there, but was more of a background character. But like we saw on this week, on the August 27th edition of Smackdown, Heyman was heavily featured and integrated by some of the other characters in the story. So let's get into that. Let's jump over to the August 27th edition of Smackdown. The story starts off with Paul Heyman walking towards Roman Reigns' locker room before being stopped by Kayla Braxton. Kayla, being the backstage reporter that she is, automatically asked the million-dollar question that's on everyone's mind, and that's the question about where does Heyman's loyalty stand? Heyman seemed insulted by the question. He said that he stands where he always stands, right behind his tribal chief, Roman Reigns. He goes to open the locker room door, and it's locked for him. He's not allowed in. We come back to see Jimmy and Jay open the door and greet Paul Heyman, like they normally do. But they quickly begin to grill Heyman and interrogate him about Brock Lesnar's return. They question him on if this was all part of the plan and if he knew about Brock's return well in advance. Heyman denies knowing about it and said that he'll never tear down what they worked so hard to build up with the Bloodline. Heyman said that it doesn't make sense and swears he didn't know Brock was going to be there. Jimmy and Jay continue to question him, saying that Heyman was the one who sent them to the back before Roman's SummerSlam match. Jimmy and Jay eventually go back inside the locker room, but they kept Heyman outside in the hallway. Roman Reigns shows up to find Heyman waiting outside the locker room, and Roman seems to be completely normal, as if Brock's return never happened. But Heyman still seems terrified of him. He invited Heyman into the locker room, and that was that. Then, when it was time for the family celebration, Heyman was hesitant to join the Bloodline to the ring, since he technically wasn't family. But Roman assures Heyman that he's family and that he loves him, so he walked out with them. So as far as everything Paul Heyman related, that was it for that side of the story, and it was absolutely wonderful. We see that Heyman is starting to feel the pressure from Jimmy and Jay, and now Roman is acting uncomfortably normal towards him. So Heyman is caught up in this field of emotions and doesn't know what to think. Even during the Smackdown entrance, you can just see this look of paranoia in Paul Heyman's face the entire time. So Jimmy and Jay aren't hiding how they feel about Heyman. They're clearly suspicious and made him well aware of their suspicions. But Roman, on the other hand, seems to be handling the situation in a completely different route. He's acting normal with Paul Heyman, and even that alone is making Heyman feel uncomfortable. It's highly possible that Roman is suspicious as well. But instead of calling out Heyman, it seems like Roman's plan is to play mind games with Heyman, breaking him down psychologically. Tell him things like he did on Smackdown, that he loves him, and that he's family. That alone is going to mess with Heyman's head and throw him off. So just in case Heyman is tied up and working with Brock Lesnar, Roman is going to let it play out and act like he doesn't have the slightest clue. But in reality, he knows. He's well aware. And telling by some of the questions and comments Jimmy and Jay were mentioning, it's possible that the entire bloodline already got together behind closed doors and talked about their suspicions. So Roman isn't the odd man out here. He's a very intelligent character and has to be on in the suspicions here for sure. That's a great thing about Paul Heyman there. It feels like the Brock Lesnar story is progressing without Brock even being around. So it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. It's also not the only story that Roman has going on at SmackDown. He has 2 more potential stories revolving around him. Finn has now stepped up, said that he's going to skip the line and challenge Roman Reigns for the Universal title next week. So Roman has to deal with that. And then the third story for Roman Reigns could be with Naomi. Naomi made her first appearance on SmackDown this week since being traded from Raw. Naomi came into Sonya Deville's office very energetic, very eager to come to work on SmackDown, but was shot down by Sonya's words in a matter of a few seconds. Sonya brushes Naomi off as if she's a random nobody, tells her that she didn't even know about the trade, and said that she had nothing for her to do this week. Naomi reminds Sonya that she is a former multiple-time SmackDown Women's Champion. She has a lot of history on this brand, but Sonya just said to check back next week. Clearly, this is the start of some story here for Naomi. Fans online speculate and hope that this is the origins of her bloodline arc. She's getting denied and ignored by management and officials, so much that it eventually leads her to turn to Roman Reigns and the bloodline to get her career back on track and get everyone to notice her again. So it's still very early in the story to tell where they can be taking this Naomi story, but it definitely seems like they're hinting towards a change for Naomi. And what better change than to have her align with her family in the bloodline? This theory has been around for nearly a year now, but there could be a slight chance that we could be on our way of seeing it finally take place. In other SmackDown-related news, Sasha Banks, who has been mysteriously gone from the SmackDown since August 13th, still wasn't backstage at SmackDown this week. Even Sasha's social media have gone fully dark since the night before SummerSlam. She's usually very active, multiple tweets and posts all day long, but there's been nothing at all for over a week now as her disappearance continues. Bianca Belair earned a title match against Becky Lynch, so that seems to be the plan going forward. With no mentions of Sasha and the next title match already booked, is Sasha going to be missing more time than originally expected? No one knows, everyone is in the dark right now, but it'll be very easy to write Sasha Banks back into the title picture. She signed the contract and never got her match for whatever reason they want to use. So she can come back, demand to be placed into the match, and now you have a triple threat between Sasha, Becky, and Bianca. Still no signs of Sasha, but hopefully something like that happens. What are your thoughts on today's stories? Leave your comments, don't forget to subscribe with all notifications on, and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.